Okay, so right, for Lab 13, we're gonna look into reading information from an Excel file. So some quick agenda will be the introduction, the setup, and as well the program flow for this Lab 13. Right, so very quickly we'll be looking into how to read data from an Excel file and using the information inside the Excel file onto our automation. Right, so obviously then you also need to understand your Excel rows, columns, as well as index. Right, so that we can get the information that we want and apply it into our automation. So also this lab, right, will be actually a continuation from your lab 12, and some of the other activities that we'll look at or use will be use Excel file, read range, do while, and assign. Okay, so these are some of the activities. So very quickly, right, how we can gonna first duplicate our lab 12 project folder. So if I just do a quick duplicating of my lab 12, and I'm just gonna quickly rename it to lab 13. Okay, so this just renames the folder, right? And go inside and open the main.xaml file. So this will fire out a UiPath application, right? So once that is open, right, okay, we are gonna do some renaming of the project name and things like that. Okay, so we're gonna first click on project tab on either the side or the bottom. Then we're gonna right click on the project name and then just go to project settings and just rename 12 to 13. Okay, so that's it for renaming of your project. Okay, so I will hide this. Okay, so once this done, after renaming, okay, so onto the program folder, right? So very first thing we want to do is to open an Excel file and read the things inside from the sheet number 1, right? So if you have on your My Connection this Excel file, and if you do open it, right, you will notice that there is total of 6 rows. Okay, so the vertical ones are rows, then all these are columns. Okay, so 6 rows, okay, and 3 columns in this case. So the different columns has gender, number set, as well as country. Okay, and whichever settings is all at the bottom. Okay, so this is kind of like a Excel file, the rows and the columns. Right, so the very first thing we want to do obviously is to move this Excel file into our project file. Okay, so that's the very first step. Once this done, okay, the next step will be to use this activity. Okay, use Excel file activity. Okay, so if you look at the next slides, okay, so basically this tells you that in this activity you just need to tell him where is that Excel file is. Right, so very simple. When the program starts, the very first thing we want to do is to read the Excel file. Okay, use Excel file. Right, so then the next thing is to choose the Excel. Where is the Excel? Okay, right, so that's done. Okay, so likewise, if you have not noticed, okay, inside our Excel files, right, okay, there's many sheets. Okay, so in this case we only have sheet 1. Okay, so how to go to that specific sheet, right, will be actually to use this activity called read range activity. Okay, so when we open the Excel file, then we want to read that specific sheet, so it's read range. Okay, so that will be this activity, and what will be the command? So the command would then be excel.sheet1. Okay, .sheet1. Okay, so after we read, we need to save it to somewhere, so then we'll need to have a variable for that. Okay, so we can create a variable. So let's just do on the main. Okay, we're not gonna disturb the previous one. Okay, so that's for the name of the prompt. So let's create one more, my data table. Okay, and then for this we're gonna use int32. Oh, sorry, my bad. We're gonna use system data table. Okay, so and here now we can save it to my data table. Okay, so basically whatever is in sheet 1 will be read and stored into my data table. Okay, so after which, right, because we're gonna count the different rows, okay, so we need to create a new variable and call it row ID. Okay, so likewise variable tabs again. Okay, we're gonna call one row ID. Okay, and this would just be for int32. Okay, so now that the variable is made, right, we're gonna try to read in. Okay, so if you go back to previously, right, previous slides, so all the ones in greens are in Lab13, right? So therefore we have got to move all these things into our do while loop. Okay, because we're gonna loop it 5 times because there's 5 different so-called profile. Okay, so let's quickly create a do while loop first. Okay, so after you read everything, the next thing it wants to do is to add a do while. Okay, so with this do while loop, okay, the very first thing is how many times we're gonna loop. So the condition would then be row my data table dot row count. Okay, right, so this is the total number of rows, and if it's currently is less, then it should repeat. Okay, so looking back, then some of the things that we need to move into the do while loop will be actually we only need to open the web browser once. Okay, so maybe instead, right, we should move this do while loop. Okay, let's cut it. Okay, when we open our browser, we're gonna start then doing the loop once. Okay, so open the browser, then we'll start our loop. And what are some of the things that we're gonna loop are the clicks and the selections. Okay, all the way to the message box. So you can hold down the activity, left click the activity, hold down Control, and select multiple activities. Pretty much all of them, okay, until the message box. After which you're gonna cut them and paste it into the body of the do while loop. Okay, right, so now instead of us choosing female every time we loop, okay, we need to say input the things that's in the Excel sheet. Right, so example will be, so the very first time we loop, we want to use male, female, female, male, and then so on. Okay, so you're gonna follow this specific order from the Excel. And how can we do that? Okay, is that we can use myTable.row, then the row ID. Okay, so let's replace that. myDataTable.row. Okay, so we're gonna say which row, so we're gonna pass in the index, which is row ID. Okay, dot, I think it's the item, and the item will be the name of the column. Okay, so the name of the column will be gender. Okay, and we're gonna dot to string. Okay, right, so you're gonna do the same for the other parameters as well. Okay, so the next one will be the number set column. And I think the last one is the country. Okay, right, so yeah, as usual, so once you figure that out, you click on generate, you're gonna try to read in the name, and you're gonna try to say hello. Okay, so if we have any more steps remaining. Okay, right, so one more thing before we test. Okay, we need to go and change the row ID every time, so to go to the next row. Right, so every time we print name hello, then we can actually do a assign, and we're gonna say row ID would increase by 1. Okay, so this will actually increase the number, then this technically will then actually read the next row. Okay, so once that's done, close the Excel, let's fire our browser, refresh, go back to the original settings. Okay, let's do a run to see this thing work. Okay, so the first one is male, check Spain, click on generate. Okay, so that's the first name. Okay, next should be a female. Okay, second one. Okay, now it's the third one, male this time again. Okay, So female. Okay, one more. I guess this is the last guy. Right, so that's the program. Right, so to conclude, we are actually trying to read from an Excel file. Okay, so the given Excel file is this. Is it coming up? Yes. Okay, so based on the settings here, gender, the name set, and the countries. So you go through the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, then fifth one, before the program's end. Okay, so that is how we're gonna read information from an Excel file. Okay, right, so we have covered do while, okay, and as well as defining the condition for that. Assign activity is to increase the row number to the next row. Right, so that's pretty much it for lab 13. Okay, so this is a very important lab whereby very likely you will need to use it for your project. So good luck, have fun.